Welcome to Voice Daily Finance, the most important news personalized for you every day. Supported by Voice.com.
Today we're sharing 3 stories. First, we'll explore how Microsoft and Amazon are in a frantic race to convert Europe's old coal plants into AI data centers, and why that strategy could risk Europe's digital sovereignty. Second, a major security breach inside chip giant TSMC, which powers both Apple and Nvidia, will reveal what insiders were allegedly after the secrets to next-generation 2nm chip technology. And third, the average US tariff rate just hit 18.3%, its highest since 1934. We'll break down how this is collapsing the trade deficit with China, but grinding the US services sector to a halt. The future of artificial intelligence is being built on the bones of the industrial age. Believe it or not, Europe's oldest, dirtiest, and most obsolete coal plants are suddenly at the center of a high-tech gold rush. Tech giants like Microsoft and Amazon are in a frantic race to turn these industrial dinosaurs into hyper-advanced data centers. Why? Because with 153 coal plants across Europe and Britain slated to close by 2038, these sites hold the 2 things the AI industry desperately needs: massive connections to the power grid and ready-made water cooling facilities. Tapping into the grid isn't just about finding a big plug. The real challenge is that you are replacing a power generation site with a massive power consumption site. A single hyperscale data center can use as much electricity as a mid-sized city, creating huge technical challenges for grid stability. We saw a stark warning of this in the US, where 60 data centers in Virginia disconnected from the grid at the same time, causing a sudden 1,500 megawatt power surge that operators had to scramble to contain. So while these sites offer a shortcut, they also place an entirely new kind of burden on Europe's aging electrical grids. And what about that second ingredient? Water. Well, AI is incredibly thirsty. A study by the European Union found that large data centers are more water efficient, but their total consumption is staggering. To put it in perspective, Microsoft's water use for its data centers jumped 34% in a single year, reaching over 1.7 billion gallons. That's enough to fill 2,500 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Citing these water-guzzling facilities in regions already facing drought raises a serious question. Are we just trading one resource-intensive industry for another? For tech companies, building from scratch means facing grid connection delays that can stretch for more than a decade. These old plants offer a critical shortcut. This isn't just about recycling old land. This is a strategic power play. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer of strategy at play. This move could make Europe more dependent on a handful of non-European tech companies for its critical digital infrastructure. Research shows that US giants like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google already control nearly 70% of the European cloud market. By handing over strategic power sites to these same companies, it raises huge questions for Europe's goal of achieving digital sovereignty, the ability to control its own digital destiny without foreign influence. According to insiders, the entire game comes down to one phrase: speed to power. For utility companies like Engie, RWE, and Enel, this is a stunning reversal of fortune. Instead of facing billions in shutdown costs, they are now securing lucrative long-term power contracts that could be worth hundreds of millions or even billions of euros. Tech firms are reportedly paying premiums of up to 20 euros per megawatt hour for low-carbon power, a price they're willing to pay to get ahead. But while it's a reversal of fortune for the utility companies, what about the local communities? A coal plant is a major employer. A data center, on the other hand, is highly automated and creates far fewer jobs. For example, when a coal plant in Alabama was replaced by a Google data center, it created just 100 new jobs, a fraction of what the plant provided. This raises a critical question about what a just transition really looks like for these former fossil fuel towns. It's a perfect, if unlikely, marriage. Old world energy infrastructure is becoming the launch pad for new world technology. One real estate firm is already working on a massive 2.5 gigawatt data center at a former German coal plant. So as Europe shuts down its fossil fuel past, it's simultaneously paving the way for a digital future, powered by the very infrastructure it's trying to leave behind. But is this move genuinely green, or is it a form of greenwashing? The problem is that while these tech companies sign deals for renewable energy, sources like wind and solar are intermittent. A McKinsey report found that claiming 100% renewable energy through these deals often only reduces actual emissions by 40 to 50% because the data centers still need to draw power from the grid, which often means fossil fuels when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. Achieving true 24/7 carbon-free energy is a goal that most experts believe is still decades away. The question is, who will win this race to turn coal into cloud? All market information is subject to change. This is not investment advice. So while Europe's tech infrastructure faces a massive transformation, the very heart of that technology, the semiconductor, is facing a crisis of its own. A major security breach has been uncovered inside TSMC, the undisputed chip giant that powers both Apple and Nvidia. The company just confirmed it detected unauthorized activities and has already fired employees and launched legal action. But the real story is what they were allegedly after. According to multiple sources, the target was the company's most valuable secret, the proprietary information for its next generation 2nm chip technology. This isn't just any component, it's the absolute bleeding edge of semiconductor manufacturing. To understand the gravity of this, you have to realize what 2nm technology represents. We're talking about transistors so small you could fit millions of them on the head of a pin. This level of miniaturization unlocks immense power and efficiency, which is exactly what companies like Apple and Nvidia need for their next generation of iPhones and AI data centers. Gaining access to these plans is like stealing the blueprints for the engine that will run the global economy for the next decade. TSMC has gone on the record with a hardline stance, stating it has a zero-tolerance policy toward any actions that compromise the protection of trade secrets and will pursue the matter to the fullest extent of the law. The stakes couldn't be higher. After all, this is a company that, by its own account, holds over 200,000 distinct trade secrets in its internal systems. It is a technological fortress. And when we say it's a fortress, that's almost an understatement. Protecting these secrets goes way beyond just firewalls and passwords. We're talking about a multi-layered security system, sophisticated data loss prevention, software monitoring every single file, a segmented network to wall off different parts from each other, and intense physical security with restricted access zones and constant surveillance. It is a digital and physical lockdown. This discovery, by the way, follows a pattern of high-stakes industrial espionage in the chip sector. In 2018, a former TSMC employee was indicted for attempting to leak secrets to a company in mainland China. And just last year, critical chip equipment maker ASML reported a former employee in China had misappropriated its proprietary data. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn, because the human element comes in. What motivates a highly paid, top-tier engineer to risk everything? Research gives us a pretty clear picture. While some might be coerced or act out of ideology, the number one driver is almost always financial. A 2023 Verizon report found that nearly 90% of these kinds of insider breaches are financially motivated. And here's a fascinating and chilling detail. Studies from Carnegie Mellon show that about 70% of insiders who steal intellectual property do it within 30 days of announcing their resignation. It's a critical window where loyalty has frayed and the temptation to take a parting gift is at its peak. This all happens against a backdrop of intense geopolitical tension, where a nation's technological advantage is a core part of its strategic power. Security experts believe these are not just random acts of corporate greed. The systematic targeting of semiconductor leaders like TSMC and ASML points toward coordinated, state-sponsored intelligence operations. In fact, we've seen reports of thousands of Taiwanese chip engineers being lured to mainland China with massive financial offers, creating a strategic brain drain designed to transfer that critical knowledge. As the world depends on these microscopic circuits for everything from smartphones to national security, the breach inside TSMC raises a critical question. In the global race for technological supremacy, how secure are the secrets that power our future? Speaking of the global race for supremacy, it's not just being fought over microchips. A different kind of economic war is heating up, and it's being waged with tariffs. The average US tariff rate has just skyrocketed to 18.3%. That is the highest it has been since 1934, and it's creating shockwaves across the global economy. This aggressive trade policy presents a fascinating duality. On one side, it's delivering a knockout blow to the trade deficit with China, which has collapsed by a staggering 70% in just 5 months. That brings the gap to its lowest point in more than 2 decades. On the other, this isn't just about stopping trade, it's about a massive frantic redirection of it. We're seeing what experts call the Great Supply Chain Scramble. As manufacturing leaves China, countries like Vietnam and Taiwan are rushing to fill the void. Vietnam, for instance, is attracting billions in foreign investment to build out its chip packaging facilities, with its global share in that sector projected to grow 9-fold by 2032. It's a global chess match, with entire industries moving across the map. But that's not the whole picture. While the trade gap shrinks, a powerful countercurrent is hitting the US domestic economy. The vast services sector, which accounts for 2/3 of all American economic activity, is now grinding to a halt. The Institute for Supply Management's key index has slipped to 50.1, barely in growth territory. You might wonder how tariffs on physical goods could possibly hurt the digital services economy. Well, it's a classic example of an invisible economic ripple effect. When their clients in manufacturing and retail get squeezed by import costs, they cut back on spending. This creates what some are calling an invisible tariff on code. Major IT firms have reported revenue declines specifically because their clients in the auto and manufacturing sectors are delaying or cancelling tech projects. It's a chain reaction. The reason? Businesses are sounding the alarm. They report that the swarm of new import taxes is driving up costs and forcing them to delay or even cancel projects. One top economist puts it bluntly saying, quote, "We think the negative impact of high tariff rates will outweigh any positives from lower policy uncertainty," end quote. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This pressure is sparking a hidden tech arms race. To survive, companies are accelerating their adoption of advanced automation and artificial intelligence. They're using AI-powered analytics to navigate disrupted trade routes and forecast tariff impacts in real time. McKinsey finds that companies using these advanced tools are seeing cost savings of 15 to 20%. It's an attempt to build tariff-proof operations, but it's a costly and high-risk gamble. Here's the core conflict. The US is importing fewer consumer goods, but the prices American businesses pay for their own supplies are hitting the highest levels in nearly 3 years. It's a high-stakes economic squeeze play. This all begs the question, is shrinking one deficit worth creating another crisis right here at home? The numbers are in, but the final verdict is still very much on the table.
That's it for today on Voice Daily Finance. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.